Spiritual warfare. Define it. I don't know how to really define it, but it's really anything that disgruntles our faith, or that...
Your peace. Anything that disturbs your peace.
Yeah.
Like that.
I think so.
I think is,
And it could be, as some might say, this is pretty... What do you call? These issues might be a little bit low-hanging fruit. There's bigger issues that we should be, praying for, but any little thing counts.
Mm-hmm.
Like the two stories that I'm learning about right now is the story of Job, who's just suffering for no reason and just asking God why, asking his friends why. And then on the other hand, you got Jacob and his family witnessing the start of Israel kill each other and rape each other. It's like, shoot, those are like one's really like, okay, get over yourself, be a man, and like be a man, take accountability of whatever you did. God is treating you as such. Job says, no, I didn't do anything. And that's also tough to deal with. Like simple trials like we're talking about. Or you got like really devastating trials. Like, okay, like this is really bad. Let's actually pray for this. Let's actually pray for the world.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can do. I mean, sitting from our shoes, trying to pray for people. That's all. There's only so much you can do. So, as little as, praying for people that are struggling and wrestling with God to find purpose versus people with physical problems, they're both very important. And I just don't want to lose sight of that when talking about these kinds of things. But yeah, it's a good place to unpack all these.
Yep.
I don't know. There's better spiritual moments out there, like Jonah moment. What's a Jonah moment?
Jonah moment is a reminder that God is with us. It's what it means for us. So, Jonah moment. I'm going to butcher this story because I should have just jotted it down when it happened, because I feel like as time goes on, the more it's like fading away. But basically, I was starting to question things that I was learning in the Bible and, what have you. And, anytime I'm questioning something, I like to look things up and try to find the answers to everything. And, that's tough when you're studying the Bible because there's not going to be an answer to everything. But I was having a question. So then, I went to bed and then...
Well, you were questioning God for multiple days at that point, and...
Well, it wasn't even... You like to call it questioning God, but I wasn't questioning God in and of itself. It's just I was questioning the teachings in the Bible, and things weren't making sense to me. So that's what I was questioning. But
it was a real frustration too. Like, it wasn't just like a questioning exercise, because we always question something, but you were like frustrated, like the teachings. Okay, if God's like this, well, one, like some stupid things, like one, how if God's like this, how do we only live 80 years old, and back then people are living like 500 years old?
Yeah.
Or like two, like, if God's so great, why are we mentioning rape and incest and all these things in the Bible? It's like, okay, I gotta research this even more than the Bible. But really,
yeah, I guess
the teaching, the takeaway from all that it didn't hit home properly that week. I'm just pointing out from my perspective.
Yeah, I think that's been more your perspective. I don't remember quite what it was. So sorry, I can't really disclose what it was that I was questioning because I really don't remember and I don't want to misspeak on what I was questioning. But it was something. And so, point being, I went to sleep and I ended up, having a dream that night. And in the dream, I remember hearing the name Jonah multiple times, as though I need to remember that name. So the next morning I woke up and I told you, I was like, hey, I don't know what this means, but I dreamt about Jonah, the name Jonah. We're in the middle of getting ready for the day. You're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And didn't pay any mind. And I was like, all right, well, whatever. So, we go to work, we do our thing. And then I get home that evening and I was still struggling with that same question that I hadn't found an answer to. So then I looked it up, and as I'm trying to look up the answer to what I was questioning, a verse from Jonah came up. And so I was like, oh, this is weird. This is the name I was dreaming about. Because up until that point, we don't know anyone named Jonah. I haven't met anyone named Jonah. The only Jonah I know is the celebrity, Jonah Hill, the actor. Yeah. That's the only Jonah that I know in my head. But so very random. So then I click on it and I read the verse, and basically it was a message that God was just saying to have faith in him. Long story short. So I was like, okay. So I shared that with you. And in that moment, to me, I was still so hyper focused on, but that doesn't answer my question thing, that, I didn't really acknowledge the moment too much. But
yeah, you kind of brushed in the moment. Now talking about the story, it's not as impactful, but in the moment it was like, aha, this is it. And then you're like, well, all right. Maybe some silence passes, and then you're like, oh, look at this Amazon book. This guy goes into great detail of what Jonah was actually speaking of. And this guy is saying all these things. I'm like, wait, no, let's go back to the freaking message and actually just let it simmer a little bit. God sent you this message in your dream to get to this point and to let you know that all you really need is faith.
Yeah.
All you really need is to belong. Well, we learned this later, that all he really wants us is to belong to him, and us to belong to him, and him to belong to us. The first step is faith. Take the leap of faith. Well, the question isn't why. The question is how big, when. Mm-hmm. But the questions usually aren't why with God.
But I think also it's worth noting, it goes back to, that God knows us better than we know ourselves. He knew us even before we were conceived. And it's proof, because in that moment, how would he have known that I was going to keep digging to the point of asking that particular question to that particular forum to then be led to Jonah? You know what I mean? So he already has the game plan, he knows us. He knows how we are. He knows our tendencies. He knows who we are as individuals. So I'm sure he knows that when I'm questioning things, it's not from a ill intent. It's not from I don't believe in God perspective, because he knows that I do believe in him. I'm just a very curious person, and I'm a very I like facts. I like truth. That's why I'm a STEM person. I work in a STEM career field.
Yeah, but at the time I just think
that's cool to know, isn't it cool that even despite your questioning, God still knows you, and he's still going to continue to lead you and guide you to where you need to be in that moment. you know.
Yeah. Well, at the time, as in your frustration, I was always so frustrated too. It's just like, just let it rest for a little bit. Just let the research rest, because you were just like, there's a point where you do too much research and too much overthinking that you lose the actual purpose of the messages that God sends us. And I think in those moments, we just like both had to just look at each other, just like, let's just sit on this. Mm-hmm. That's all you need for this week. Mm-hmm. That's all we need.
Yeah. Which I'm glad in that moment you were able to kind of reel it back to have us acknowledge the moment, because, yeah, that's needed too. It's all about balance, you know. Like, just.
But the why questions come from a framework of curiosity and learning more, and maybe less faith than if you just believe and take the leap. The why questions are, why are you leaping? But the faith is just let's just go. Let's just leap anyways. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
this looks different in every different situation that we go through, but that was one of those situations where I had to put my foot down. This is where we stop researching.
Yeah.
And put a bookmark in our life in this moment that we call Jonah moments, because I mean,